Leah stood in front of her bedroom mirror, holding a piece of paper in her shaking hands. Next week, she would give a presentation at work about her new project ideas. This was her first big presentation, and she was terrified. Leah was 28 years old and worked as a marketing assistant at a small company. She was good at her job, but she had always been shy about speaking in front of people. Even talking to more than 3 people at once made her nervous. Her boss had asked her to present her ideas to the entire marketing team. There would be 15 people in the room, including the company director. Leah knew her ideas were good, but she was worried she would forget everything when she stood in front of everyone. "I can do this," Leah said to her reflection in the mirror. "I just need to practice." Leah had 1 week to prepare. She decided to practice her presentation every single day until she felt confident. She wrote out her speech carefully, choosing simple words and short sentences. She wanted to make sure everyone could understand her ideas clearly. On Monday morning, Leah practiced her presentation for the first time. She stood in her living room and read her speech out loud. Her voice was quiet and shaky. She stumbled over several words and forgot what to say next twice. After 5 minutes, she felt exhausted. "This is terrible," Leah thought. "How can I present to 15 people when I can barely speak to my empty living room?" But Leah did not give up. She knew that many successful people had felt scared before important presentations. She remembered reading about famous speakers who had practiced for hours before their big moments. On Monday evening, Leah practiced again. This time, she focused on speaking more slowly and clearly. She practiced looking up from her notes and making eye contact with imaginary audience members. It felt strange talking to empty chairs, but she knew it would help. Tuesday morning came, and Leah practiced before work. She noticed that she remembered more of her speech without looking at her notes. Some phrases were starting to feel natural when she said them. She was beginning to feel a tiny bit more confident. During her lunch break on Tuesday, Leah found an empty conference room at work and practiced there. She wanted to get used to speaking in a professional environment. The room felt more formal than her living room, and she practiced adjusting her voice to fill the larger space. Wednesday arrived, and Leah had now practiced her presentation 8 times. She was starting to memorize whole sections without thinking about it. Her body was learning the rhythm of the words. When she practiced that evening, she barely looked at her notes. On Thursday, something wonderful happened. Leah practiced her presentation and realized she had spoken for the entire 10 minutes without feeling nervous. Her voice was strong and clear. She had found a comfortable pace and natural gestures to go with her words. "Maybe I can actually do this," Leah said to herself with surprise. Friday was her final practice day. Leah decided to do something different. She called her sister Emma and asked her to listen to the presentation. Emma came over that evening and sat in Leah's living room like a real audience member. Leah felt nervous again when she saw Emma watching her, but she took a deep breath and began speaking. To her amazement, the words flowed naturally. She had practiced so many times that her body knew exactly what to say and how to say it. "Lee, that was fantastic," Emma said when the presentation was finished. "You sounded confident and professional. Your ideas are really creative, and you explain them so clearly." Lee felt a warm feeling of pride. All her practice was working. Over the weekend, Lee practiced 2 more times, just to keep the presentation fresh in her mind. She also chose her clothes carefully and prepared all the materials she would need for Monday morning. Monday morning arrived faster than Lee expected. She woke up feeling nervous, but it was a different kind of nervousness. Instead of feeling scared that she would fail, she felt excited to share her ideas with her team. Lee arrived at work 30 minutes early. She set up the conference room, checked that the projector was working, and arranged her notes neatly on the table. When her colleagues started arriving, she greeted them with a smile. "Good morning, everyone," said Mr. Johnson, the marketing director. "Lee has some interesting project ideas to share with us today. Lee, whenever you're ready." Lee stood up and walked to the front of the room. She looked at the 15 faces watching her and felt her heart beating faster. For a moment, she worried that she might forget everything. But then something amazing happened. As soon as Lee opened her mouth to speak, all her practice took over. The words came out smoothly and confidently, just like they had dozens of times in her living room. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my ideas with you today." Lee's voice was clear and strong. She made eye contact with different people around the room, just as she had practiced. Her hands moved naturally as she explained her concepts. As Lee continued speaking, she realized that she was not reading from her notes at all. Her body remembered everything. The countless hours of practice had created what she now understood was called muscle memory. Her mouth knew which words came next, her hands knew when to gesture, and her voice knew when to pause. Our first project idea focuses on social media engagement. Lee continued, feeling more confident with each sentence. "Based on my research, I believe we can increase customer interaction by 30% using these 3 strategies." Lee explained each strategy clearly and enthusiastically. She could see that her colleagues were paying attention and nodding in agreement. Some of them were taking notes, which made her feel proud and respected. When Lee finished her presentation, the room was quiet for a moment. Then Mr. Johnson started clapping, and everyone else joined in. Lee felt a wonderful surge of accomplishment. "Excellent work, Lee," Mr. Johnson said. "Your ideas are creative and well-researched. I'm particularly interested in your social media strategy. Can you prepare a detailed plan for that project?" "Yes, absolutely," Lee replied, smiling widely. "I would love to develop that idea further." After the meeting, several colleagues came to talk to Lee about her presentation. They complimented her confidence and asked questions about her ideas. Lee answered easily and enjoyed the professional discussions. During lunch, Lee's friend and colleague Sarah sat with her in the company cafeteria. "Lee, I have to tell you something," Sarah said. "I was really impressed by your presentation this morning. You seemed so natural and confident up there. I never would have guessed that you were nervous about public speaking." Lee laughed. "Thank you, Sarah, but I have to be honest with you. I was terrified about this presentation. I practiced it every single day for a week." "Really?" Sarah looked surprised. "It certainly didn't show. You looked completely comfortable." "That's exactly why I practice so much," Lee explained. "I knew that if I prepared enough, my body would remember what to do even if my mind felt nervous." That evening, Lee sat in her living room and thought about her successful day. She realized that she had learned something very important about herself and about overcoming fears. The key was not to eliminate nervousness completely. The key was to prepare so thoroughly that nervousness could not stop her from performing well. All those hours of practice had built a foundation of confidence that supported her when she needed it most. Lee also realized that practice had another benefit. It had not just helped her memorize her words. It had also helped her discover her own natural speaking style. Through repetition, she had found her comfortable pace, her natural gestures, and her authentic voice. From that day forward, Lee approached challenging situations differently. Whenever she faced something that made her nervous, she remembered her presentation experience. She learned to break down big challenges into smaller practice sessions. 6 months later, Lee was asked to present her ideas to the entire company, including senior executives. This time, she felt excited rather than scared. She knew that with enough practice, she could handle any speaking situation. Lee's colleagues began asking her for advice about presentations and public speaking. She always told them the same thing: practice makes perfect, but more importantly, practice makes confidence. Lee had discovered that preparation was not just about memorizing information. It was about building trust in herself. Every time she practiced, she was proving to herself that she could succeed. Today, Lee regularly gives presentations and even leads training workshops for new employees. She still practices before important presentations, but now she enjoys the process. Practice is no longer something she has to do because she is afraid. It is something she chooses to do because she wants to do her best work.